Just don't last, and other things don't feel right. Because although we had the best years of our lives, some paths move so distant, and some sparks lose their light. Been dragging my mind back before I met you, remembering life and cutting our photos in two. And there's not that I want to forget what we made, 'cause I won't lie, I miss you, but that's the price I have to pay. Because although we had the best days of our lives, some things they just don't last, and other things don't feel right. Because although we had the best years of our lives, some paths move so distant, and some sparks lose their light.
Alright, we'll give it a start. How's everyone going? Welcome. The idea for this Flutter meetup is, first of all, because we didn't do any meetups in a long time. All the quarantine in different places has been a little bit tough for everyone. We're going to talk about all things related to all the new good stuff from Flutter Web, from Flutter Desktop, CodePen, DartPad, pretty much all the new stuff, pretty much that you, if you guys saw the Flutter Day event today, I'm going to give more insight about how I did the CodePen, so details that you need to know about those, all things related like PWAs, progressive web apps, all those informations will be during this meetup event. It's not gonna last for 2 hours unless there is a lot of questions and things that I could able to show and people interested to show them. But bear in mind that I'll be focusing on intermediate to maybe some advanced topics related to Flutter Web, because not a lot of people have the knowledge, and it touches very specific things that you need to bear in mind as developer of Flutter Web, which is a little bit different from the regular mobile development. For example, we have the platform channels if you want to communicate with Android and iOS, and on Flutter Web we depend on JavaScript. We have a different access to get to the Flutter Web and JavaScript to get all the information that we need from the browser. If we need like for example to show an iframe, to show even music and audio is a little bit different than mobile, and we're gonna see all those details. Nice to see you. Part 2 is gonna be also more related to light coding as well. I will try to get, I don't know, hopefully a Googler if that's even a chance for part 2. So let's move the social media as much as we can to get a Googler for the part 2. That'll be awesome because they can give us more insight about Flutter from the Flutter perspective as a Flutter employees, and not just my point of view as a developer. I got music background. It's on purpose, huh? If it's too loud, you guys let me know. I can just decrease the volume. I just put it just to give it a small start for the meetup, and don't be just my voice. It's 6 p.m. We're getting close to Friday. It's good to have nice free copyright music that I don't get my stream down. But it's just to give it a small startup for the whole event. We're gonna jump a little bit through the code. I'm going to, and also examples that I've been doing. If you've been following me through social media, I've been both on Twitter and LinkedIn. I've been sharing a lot of my CodePen examples that if you saw today's event on Flutter Day, I've been talking about a few of those. I couldn't talk about specific names for brands, of course, for legal requirements. But in this case, I'm the only one here. I don't have those issues. I can show those images in Netflix and Slack and all the clones that I did on Twitter and all those stuff. So we're gonna dig a little bit more into those specifics. I'm gonna jump a little bit through the code. Nice. I have a master class where I do all my CodePen examples. You will see on the left that I have a crazy amount of stuff. And even those have a few errors. Oh yeah, a small testing that I was doing. Don't look at it. All right. First thing first that I wanted to show you related to Flutter Web. How do I start with Flutter Web? If you are coming from a really old version of Flutter, I would recommend you to do Flutter upgrade to be on the latest version. If you are in the stable channel that you can check, it's like Flutter channel. You can check on which channel you're currently in. I'm currently a master. You got DartPad on stable. Stable, as the name it says, is the most stable version. It guarantees that you will have less bugs, less issues, and it's more production ready. The easiest way to change is Flutter channel and the name of the one you wanted to do. If you want to go to stable, you just put Flutter channel stable. If you want to go to master, which is master is every ticket that gets merged into a PR goes to master, is not the most stable, even though it's really stable. It could have some bugs, but it has all the latest features. And in particular, Flutter Desktop and Flutter Web are the ones that are getting the most new features out of it. So that's what I'm in master. I'm pretty much testing waters to see all the good stuff right there on desktop, on web. If by any reason and on your code structure on your left, like you can see right now on Android Studio, you don't have this folder called web, that means something happened in the process of creating your project. It's really simple to solve that issue. All you have to do is write on your terminal Flutter space create space dot period, and that's it. What this is going to do, if there is anything missing in your project, in my case it could be, for example, I got a test that I didn't have before, and it's adding now on my folder that I don't need it because I don't have any UI tests. But if there's something missing, like for example I'm running on a Mac OS and the Mac OS build is not there, Flutter Create is going to create that for you. If you don't have the web is going to create that for you, because remember, each particular platform has their own unique stuff. Like, again, because that's the nature of the OS of each platform. iOS is going to have their details. Android is going to have those details. Mac OS, their details. Windows, Linux, and also web. Web in particular, this is a lot different from the other OS because it doesn't depend from an OS. On web, what are we gonna find on web? We're gonna find icons which are going to be related to PWA. For those who don't know, PWA is Progressive Web Apps, is the ability of a website to be pseudo converted into a native app. It's not fully native, but it has a lot of the benefits of having a native app. For example, you can cache elements on your device. You can have an actual icon that you can drag around into your folder. You can uninstall it if you don't need it. You can get access to device-specific information, and all those details will be living inside of what is called manifest.json, which we're going to see a little bit more in a few minutes. Let me see if everything is okay on my side. Yes. Favicon is regular favicon. You go to your browser, you go to your tab, that's it. That's a favicon. It's a 16 by 16 pixel PNG or an ICO file. That's all you need. Index manifest. This is nothing new. If you ever open a website, there's nothing different out of it. It has an HTML, it has a header, it has different details. The only important thing here are, to be honest, I could literally delete most of the stuff and it's still gonna be working, is this script which is going to convert your main Dart, the executor of your code is gonna be converted into a JavaScript class. But this JavaScript class is gonna live your entire app. There's when it's gonna be running. So technically what it does is once you build your app, it's going to convert everything into a JavaScript that is going to run from your index HTML. That's pretty much what it does. A lot of the details you're going to see here that you maybe are not that familiar are, for example, the service worker. This is related to PWA, which gives the benefit the app to cache a lot of information. In the case of if I have images on the assets, they would not try to find it from your server. It would download those images the first time and it's gonna stick on your phone cache, ready to use, even if you don't have connection, which is a really cool feature that was added just, I would say a couple of weeks ago into the full performance. But back then they have a couple of issues related to cache and now it's pretty much done. Icons, like I said, it says Apple Touch icon. This one is specifically for iOS. This one is for Android. Shortcut, again, if he doesn't know which one is, I would take the file icon. It will just take it out of there. You got a lot of descriptions and stuff and even OG images that you can have for social media and different stuff that I can get from a different app that I have that I can copy here in this one for you guys to see. Let me copy over here. There you go. So a lot of the information of the metadata that you can have is you can have Twitter cards and you can have OG information. This one, when you get your URL and you paste into social media, it will display descriptions. It will display which Twitter account was created from. It was going to link to your URL and it's going to have an image. You can have, as in this case, a summary large. I want a big image so it creates a bigger impact on the social media when I post it. Same thing happens with Facebook. Try to have an account that has a developer account both for Twitter and Facebook, so you can scrap the URL and it will give you all those details without waiting for a cache and then the robots to consume all that information. You can force that with a Twitter card validator and with the, I think it's called URL scrapper, something like that on Facebook. You need to go to the developer options in order to paste your URL and scrap all the new information. I can delete this one, we don't need it. Now we're gonna go to a really important information here for your web to become an app. So Manifest has a lot of benefits in terms of how it's gonna be installed in your device and which benefits are going to have. So RPU device now supported in iOS Safari. Halfway, sadly. Sadly, there's a lot of things that are not working on PWA, sadly, in Safari. And even mobile Safari is even worse. Mac OS Safari is a little bit better, but iOS is trying to get there. Maybe iOS 4 thing will be bringing a lot of benefits into PWAs. I don't know for sure. It's the only browser which is really behind of every other browser. I would say that Chromium Beta is the one with the latest and greatest from every PWA stuff, followed by Chrome, then it's followed by Firefox, then it's followed by, I think it's Opera, and then Safari macOS, and then Safari iOS. Sadly, Apple's still a lot restrictive about doing PWA stuff. Why? Because of the benefits that PWA has. The fact that we don't have to go through the whole process of the App Store. We don't have to wait for an approval. We don't have to put a privacy policy. We don't have to do anything. All we have to do is just share a website to the users, and that's it. The users can install onto the device, and they can use a lot of the benefits. A lot of the API access to the device are not yet there to make a whatever app in PWA, which I even think it's gonna be years until that's the thing. But knowing that we can have that code on Flutter, and if we have those issues, we can create in native apps with the same code, but able to access that information is really, really, really important. Yes, Canarium Beta is the same as Canary. They have all the same benefits. Going back a little bit to the code, what I'm going to show you is a few details. So some of them work only on Canary right now, and some others don't. All right. So details. Manifest JSON is the really one that the browser is looking for if they want to prompt you on the bottom of the screen if you have a mobile device, if you want to install the app, or if you are in iOS, you share it to the home screen and you install it, or if you are Mac OS or similar using Chrome, it's going to prompt you with a plus indicator that now I'm going to show you in a few minutes, and to be able to install PWA. Name, self-explanatory, that's the name that is going to have your app. The short name is another description that's going to have some more like an ID. You can have a description. The star URL normally is a period, it's a dot. It doesn't matter. It's like take whatever main thing you have on your web, and that's it. It's going to work. Background color, that's when it's going to be used for your splash. So your splash takes an icon, takes the text of the name, and it takes a background color. So bear in mind that one. If you have an icon that doesn't have a good contrast with the background, you can change it over here. Theme color is the one that you're going to have in your status bar. Even if it's installed on Mac OS or a device, you'll have the status bar on the top. You can change that by the theme color. Description, self-explanatory. It doesn't have much to say, just what your app does. Orientation. This one is really good because we can force our PWA apps, Flutter Web apps, to be only portrait if we need it. For example, in the case of Instagram, it's only portrait. If you want our apps to be forced to be portrait, that's the option to add it. Landscape is the other option, or auto, if we decide that the phone is gonna turn into each side. A lot of this information, I would say that one of the best websites to get all things related to manifest.json is Firebase. They have an access on Mozilla Dev manifest.json that you can get all the information that you need about manifest, what is capable, what is not capable. There's also a website that I think is called something like does my browser have, or something like that I can share on social media as well. That if you're looking for one specific method, one specific feature, you need to see if your browser is compatible or not. You make sure that everything you do at least has a good percentage of people who are going to have those features. And if you don't, you had a lot of if conditions that you can have in your code. If that feature doesn't exist, you can get a lot of the JavaScript equivalent conditions of if that feature doesn't exist, then just don't do it. Don't execute it, because if not, what normally happens on Safari, you will get a white screen, which is a terrible experience. Icons. These are the icons that are going to be installed on your device. Depending on the screen size, you will have maybe retina size screen devices like the iPad, that it needs a really large icon. If not, it's going to take a more approach 192 pixels icon. You have one that is working on Canary, which is this one is called Shortcuts. This is the equivalent on iOS as a forward touch. This you will get on Android, that if you hold and tap on an icon, you will be prompted with shortcuts. This will lead you to different parts of your website. If you want to throw the user specifically to, if you have a camera app, you can throw it exactly through one specific part of the camera. Maybe if he also has a gallery, you can send the users as a gallery. You would notice in social media as Twitter, if you hold the Twitter icon, you can straight up send a tweet or send a DM, or it will tell you your favorites and most, or the latest users you send a DM, and you just go straight up to them. That's a really good option that it has with the manifest JSON. If not, once the Flutter Web is built, it's going to create this JavaScript, which is called Flutter Service Worker, when you have to create your own workers, your own cache, your whatever, all the benefits that you have from PWAs. That again, in Mozilla Dev has a lot of examples of how to do it. For example, in apps, when you can hold press an image, share it, and it will give you the apps able to use that image. That's a service worker. That's something that is only PWA capable of seeing your app, even if it's a web, to be able to grab that information. Either it's a text or it's a message or image, sorry, and it's going to grab by your app, and you can manipulate it then later. It's really cool. It's one of those features that were added not so long ago. How do we run a Flutter Web? It's pretty simple. If you have Android Studio, you just have to select Chrome and hit run. That's it. That's all you do. If you don't, you need to write Flutter run dash ed space Chrome, like this. Flutter run dash d space Chrome. That way you can run it on a web device. The only difference that it happens if you're running from the Android Studio, and if you're doing like the way that I'm doing right now, is how the hot reload is gonna work. If I'm doing from Android Studio using the run, I can hit on a Mac Command S, and it's gonna save, and it's gonna hot reload. If I do it from this way, running from the terminal, or if I run the release version from the terminal, everything will be from the terminal. I will have to refresh and do all the stuff from the terminal. So if you're not used to do that, like you say right here, if I need to hot reload, I need to hit the R, and if I need to quit and close it, I hit the Q, and it's gonna close it. If you're using Android Studio, I would recommend this one. I would recommend the run, as is easier, because you can hot reload from here, you can refresh it from here completely if you need it, or you can hit, like I say, Command S, and that's it. You got all the details and the difference from your code. And if you want to make a build, what you have to do is Flutter build web. This one is gonna build your website. It depends on the size of the website. I already built it, that's why it doesn't, but I can make a Flutter clean so I don't have a build one. Depending on the size of your app, could take from small amount of seconds, like maybe 4 or 5 seconds, it doesn't matter, to a huge amount of seconds. So bear that in mind. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do Flutter build web. This one, I'm running a lot of stuff. I'm running a lot of Chrome tabs. I'm running OBS and all different stuff, which takes a lot of resource, sadly, from Android Studio. I have 2 Android Studio opens. Most likely to take between 20 to 30 seconds in order to finish, for you to take in mind. Once it does that, let me see when it's done. It's almost done. It's going to create the build folder that you have here on your left, and it's going to have a web folder. This web folder is going to have everything you need to host and whatever you want. It's take 37 seconds to build. If I go to the web, this is everything you need. This right here, if you copy this and you paste on your hosting service, that's it. Your website is ready to go. Hostings. Let's go from a little bit complex to let's get it easier. I would say the complex is your own thing. If you are having your own server, you have to set up and blah 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 and so on. Even if on a WordPress is similar, that will be a little bit tougher. You will have to maybe use an FTP or similar to move over your files. That's one option. I would say the easiest, hottest option is Firebase, as you will have to need a Gmail account. You will have to create a Flutter project, Firebase project. You will have to create your Firebase hosting. You will have to have the CLI client for Flutter. You will have to init that one. You will have to, let me drink a little bit of water. I've been talking for a while. There you go. Once you do all of that, you will have a base folder that normally is called public. It doesn't matter. You can use whatever folder you want. I will suggest not to put it inside the build, because if by any reason you guys added something that it wasn't on the build, I don't know, a new icon. There was like last minute, let me just add this icon. The next time you use Flutter Clean, it's gonna clean that icon from the build. Don't do that. So try to keep it a separate, maybe in a public folder, maybe whatever, you name it. But just copy paste. That's it. That's all you need to do. Copy paste all the folders and all the files, and you'll be good to go. On Firebase, you have to do Flutter deploy, Firebase deploy, and that's gonna send it through your hosting, and then you're going to have either a Firebase.Firebase website, Firebase app, or a web.app website. Or you can have your own website. You can set up that one. If you're using Google Domains, it makes it super simple. It's the easiest way that you can have your custom domain using Flutter. The other options, there's one called search.sh. It's a free service. If the URL is taken by someone else, sorry, but it takes a similar approach to WordPress as name of my website.wordpress.com. In this case, it will be name of my website.search.sh. It's free. Take that as a okay. But it's great because it works with HTTPS without paying anything. And because it's HTTPS, we can install PWA apps and have all the benefits that is running from a secure encrypted URL. The other one that I will say, if you are really community engaged and you want to share your examples, the next hottest, easier two, one is GitHub. Let me see, I will pass to my browser. So I'll try to go to my gallery. Okay, so this website that I built is completely being done on GitHub. I just create a project on GitHub, I push my code, but the only difference that you need is you need to create a docs folder. That's the one that GitHub is gonna take for you to, let me show you on my GitHub Flutter gallery. So this is an open source project if you want to look at it. It's all my examples from CodePen that I've been showing, they're all present there. So the way to do it is you go to settings. You need to copy every single thing that you have on your build web. You need to copy on the folder called docs. If you do that, you can go to settings, you can scroll down, you can go to GitHub pages, and you're going to select your source. Your source, if you select, which is already selected, master branch, it's not gonna open anything, it's gonna open your README. That's not what you need. You need to go to the option that it says docs folder. If you have a docs folder, if you don't have it, this option is not gonna show up. Don't freak out. Just add the docs. It's not gonna be immediate. You have to take around 10 to 20 minutes, and it's going to show up. Once you change, again, it's gonna take a while, and you go through the URL which is provided by you. You can get custom domains if you want it as well, and you can enforce HTTPS, which is by default. And you can, that's it, and you have your own website to your examples, which is really nice. You can have like all the functionalities that we have out of Flutter Web compile, which has a lot more power and benefit as CodePen and DartPad, which again I'm going to show about that in a few minutes. But this one allows me to use libraries like an use provider to change the dark mode and light mode in my apps. I can show it, I can detect it. For example, if I open one of my apps, like this Twitter example is a social media, I'm using search.sh and I have this option which is called install app. Again, what this does is ended up install an app you will see in your app drawer or in your launchpad on your Mac. You will see that app there and it's gonna run as it was a native app, which is awesome. And also all the fact that it works on offline, and all those benefits, and the fact that I can detect all the width and stuff, I can just make it look more like a native app. And even so, this runs really smooth. Let's go back. The other ones that I wanted to show you are the easiest ways to share your codes and example on Flutter Web. Let's go with the next hottest, easier one, which is going to be CodePen.io. CodePen.io, around a month and a half ago, they enabled the feature of creating Flutter projects. In the past, it was a little bit difficult. Now it's getting a lot easier. All you have to do is hit this arrow and you will have different options. You got pen, you got bend pen, Flutter pen, and Flutter template. If you hit on the Flutter pen, it's gonna open a new Flutter pen project, and this I think is a hello world or something similar to that. Build some, yeah, it's as similar as a hello world. It says build some widgets. That's all it does. Nothing fancy, but depending if you have a free or pro account, you got some benefits of setting as a private if you don't want to show to anyone. And you can also have a screenshots specifically for it. And you also get more benefits in your assets. You can keep assets that you can actually consume for CodePen, and it doesn't matter. It could be images, it could be audio, it doesn't matter. Everything, even text. I have an app in CodePen that it actually takes fonts, and you can actually see it running on this one. This one's super easy. You just copy your code that you have on your IDE or whatever, even if you start here on CodePen, and that's it. You just copy paste and it's running. That's all you need, and it gives you a URL that you can share on social media, and it has a lot of benefits, really cool benefits. Let me open the Slack clone that I did. So in the Slack clone, I had the same benefits as if it was a website. It's gonna build my example, which it takes only a few seconds, and because it's detecting a lot of stuff, I can make it look like if it was a mobile app, like in this case, because this is detecting the width of it. It's not as fast as responsive as Flutter Web build app, because it's adding a lot of JavaScript and stuff to do all this real-time executing and stuff without an IDE. I don't have an IDE here. I just open a browser. I just have the code. For example, if I want to delete this line of code and I wanted to show that it has the debug banner, for example, because this is a debug version. That's the only difference. Like, sadly, we don't have a release version in CodePen. But again, I don't think we need it. You see, I can show the debug here, and if I go back and I add it again, I can save. And if by any reason it doesn't auto refresh in a couple of seconds, you just hit the Command R or just F5 and you just refresh the website and it should be gone. It just auto saves every time you finish something. How CodePen does this is by using what is called the DartPad or the Dart services. What it does is everything you write and everything you type over here, it's sent through a server. It formats all the code. It gives you all the error messages if you have any error messages, and it's going to compile a version for you. It's going to display on the right. There is a lot of limitations that you have on CodePen. You cannot have third-party libraries. So these two libraries that I'm using are inside Flutter. This is not something outside the platform. This is really specific to the platform. So if I wanted to use provider, if I want to use share preference, Sadly, I can. If I try to add any of those libraries, you will get an error on the right saying that it's not supported and it's not going to run your code. Just to bear that in mind. It's a really good example if you want to showcase stuff to people. It's really, really good. And one of the benefits that we have using CodePen is if we like to write stuff from for example Medium posts, or if you have a WordPress or similar, all I have to do is I need to copy, let's go back to my CodePen. I need to copy this URL, and when I have the editor, what I have to do is just paste that one. Boom, there you go. I got my CodePen running, which is awesome. The fact that I can share to my friends, to my readers, or even if I have an intranet for my company, this is usable. I can actually get into this here and just like type in. I can send messages. I can, I don't know, access, hey Nilay, and I can see the profile. It's really awesome. And the fact that I can use it in the middle of a Medium post, just not only showcasing images, which a lot of people do, ended up doing an image or doing an animated GIF. I can show you the full app, and it's really awesome. The fact that we have that possibility, that chance, and I can even scale it to different states, so I can have the desktop view if I want it as well, which is it's really cool. The fact that I didn't have to do any changes at all, and I can just show it and display. It's really awesome. It's one of those cool. It doesn't only have this feature. If you have WordPress, you can also have shortcuts to add it. And if not, last resource, you can use an iframe. You can use an iframe with the URL, and you're good to go. Which I would recommend if you're gonna do that. Don't use pen, which is different views. If you go to different views, you got one is called details, one is called full. You got a lot of different views. For example, if I go to full view, it's not full. I mean, you can still notice that this is CodePen, because I have like literally all these things here. But if you use the option that is called, let me delete this, it's called debug. What this one does is literally almost pretty much give you a new URL, which is a little bit funky. It's not like the idea URL, but it's a full website. That's it. I don't have anything related to CodePen. I can iframe this into my own website, into my own services, and I can display it to anyone that I want, which is really awesome. And it's completely functional. If I put this into an iframe, let me see if I can do that. That would be awesome if I can just HTML online viewer, and if I can show this on an iframe. Is there any real time? Just testing, guys. Just bear with me. Iframe source. There you go. I don't know if this is gonna work now. I think I need to add width and height if I remember. 100% height, 100%. I don't know if this is gonna work or not, because I don't know if it compiles or not. That's the thing. There, it works. Sweet, awesome. I didn't expect it. Okay, that's really cool. You see, I didn't do anything more than just use the iframe and a CodePen, and it's actually fully functional. I can change in anything. I can just write some messages and stuff and just send them through, and it's really, really cool. And it also affects if it's a mobile or not. Yes, it also gets affected by that one, which is really awesome. The fact that I don't even in CodePen right now. I'm in a random website, throwing the URL as an iframe, and it works. So if you got an intranet, if you got something related on your company that you wanted to showcase your apps, this is a really good way to do it, and without spending any money on hosting or similar. The fact that it can do that is awesome. One of the things is, if maybe you see a lot of websites that it has an animated GIF or a video of your app, why don't use this? Why don't we use an iframe of, let me just show you one of the examples that I did so you guys have a better idea. Why not to show a phone displaying your app, and this one will actually work. So in this example, what I did is I use a container, which is a phone, like a phone device that you will see most likely on a commercial website for promoting your app. But what if the user before downloads the app and not just watching a simple video, just use the app. this one is fully functional. I can type on it and I can send a message through it. Let me see if I can, there you go. And I can send a message, still working. And because it has the aspect ratio of a phone, it's going to by itself act as that. And all I have to do is, again, I use what is called an iframe, which is an element in Dart, which is the equivalent of an iframe in JavaScript. All I have to do is pass a debug URL and you're good to go. That's all I have to do. No other changes into how do I do it. It's fairly simple. It only takes 100 lines of code, even with the design that I have in the background. It could be less, way less if I need it. But it's one of the cool things that you can have with CodePen. And I would say the easiest one is, and it's a really powerful one, is DartPad. For those who don't know, DartPad was delivered some time ago and it's really up to date. As you can see here at the bottom, it's using the SDK 2.8.4, which is the latest. So the only way to do Flutter example is you have to create a new pad, you hit OK, and you have this, which is a Flutter example. This one, let me run it, is a hello world. Yeah, it's a hello world. What is great about DartPad that yet doesn't have CodePen, hopefully will be in the future, is the fact that you can do the same things as an IDE. The fact that I can option return to get like insights like this one, for example. Let's just put it on a raw, right? Let me just copy this one. And I'm going to put it in Spanish. I'm going to put some hola mundo, hello world. So I'm gonna run. This one will have a small issue because everything's going to shift through the left. I can even make it a little bit better. I can add a size box that it has a width of 20 maybe. It will be look better. Let me just run this one. Now it has a space. How to make it center? Well, if you're in IDE, it's fairly simple, but if you're not, this one will give you autocomplete, which is awesome. You have to hit Control space and it will give you the access, and I will go into main and I will get center and I'll run it again. And I got it on the center. Awesome. So if I have a scaffold, what do I have? I have an app bar. So I can add an up bar into this one. And I believe I have a title. Yes. And the title is going to be a text, which is SFXP. Let's put it that one. Why not? And that's it. And I'm going to hit run. And there you go. I have an app bar. If I want to float an action button as well, which is really awesome. This one gives you a lot of autocompletes. I got some questions over here. Are you still limited? Not yes, but this one will give you the benefit that you can use Cupertino, which the other one doesn't have. I will try to get information out of Google if we can have the ability to install third-party apps. I don't know. I don't have that answer, sadly, but hopefully it will. Hopefully it will, because it will be really awesome. The fact that we can do a lot of stuff without even an IDE, that'll be really awesome. One of the cool things that DartPad has is if you want to host your examples, the only way to do it is if you got a gist, which is a small snippet for GitHub. You can have an entire developed Flutter app into your gist. What you're going to do is you're going to copy the URL that generated by the gist, only the numbers, not the username, only the digits and the numbers. And you're going to go to the DartPad, you're going to delete Flutter, you're going to have dartpad.dev/your ID, you're going to hit enter. What this one is going to do is it's going to fetch all the information that I have from that one, and it's going to run the UI. Bear in mind that it could have some warnings that you're going to see, maybe not. And it's going to display, like this case, I have an example of an animated container that it has like different states. And I think I can go through, yeah, I can go through them as well. But I didn't have to do anything. All I have to do is like just post it on the guest, paste it on my the ID on DartPad, and it's good to go. Again, to showcase and display to people, this is a really good option. I won't say this to share to people, because when you share this, it will send you through the URL, it will send you the DartPad, and you will see it. the benefit of CodePen is the fact that you can embed your examples no matter where is what makes it powerful. And the fact that you can also save those CodePens and you can forward them and you can have then your own version of it if you need it, that's awesome. So I would suggest that if you want to go to a more approach as a social interchange of COVID, if you want to call it. But if not, again, if that's not what you want, if you want to go full on desktop mode, if you want to call it superpowers, this is an example that I did it on GitHub. Every compile app, I did one even on Firebase. This one is hosted on Firebase. This one was released last year when the Google I/O announced that Flutter Web was a thing. Like in the past was called Hummingbird, which changed the name of Flutter Web on the after the Google I/O 2019. And I decided to give it a run. I just made a small game example and it's running awesome. A lot of the stuff that I did a year ago that it wasn't working right now is updated to the latest version of the game and it's working perfectly. I can scale this to make it a more mobile UI and that's it. It keeps all the mobile UI. And if you're running on a mobile, you can actually share your score to your social media or different places you want to share it. Which is really option is and is also responsive as well. That's one thing you really need to focus if you're working on web. Make sure everything is responsive. How do we do responsive? A lot of stuff. You can use media query that I can go back to the code so you guys see the code. I can show one that has a lot of breakpoints. So this one called layout manager, layout builder, sorry, that you have constraints. So you can apply those constraints to whatever UI you want. If you want a more tablet UI or more desktop UI or ultra wide UI or even a mobile UI, you can do that. In my case, for example, I detected with the media query, which is the simplest way to do it, by the way. I use the media query.off context.size width. In this case, I put 650, which is a density of pixels on the width. I normally see a good responses of below 600 for mobile devices, between 600 and close to 1,000 for a tablet, and then above that for a computer, for a desktop or like a TV or like your own monitor. But this way is really simple. If I wanted to showcase one or the other UI, it doesn't have to be everything completely responsive. You can do that. You can really optimize your code and you can have like a grid layout that I can show you again. Let's go to the navigator. In this case, for example, what I did, this one doesn't have a if blah blah blah. This one is really using, except for small icons and stuff that I do check if it's mobile. The grid layout that you're seeing, that is going through 3, 2, 1, which, by the way, a grid view with one element per axis is become a list view, which is really awesome. You don't have to change through a grid view to a list view. Just use a grid view with one element and axis, and that's it. It's the same thing. And you can search and everything works correctly. It doesn't matter. I can just click. There you go. I did it small changes for the icons because I didn't have any space on the width. Those are the ones that I really needed to check the size of the screen. But if not, use this one. And this one, because it's a compile app, the benefit that I have is I use the share preference. So in this case, I'm right now on the dark mode. So if I close this one and I open it again, it's going to save my last option because it's caching on my browser. So the share preference is going to cache all that information and you'll be able to, like, again, if I change the live mode for you guys to see that it's not something weird, it keeps the live mode as well. And one that I really use that benefit is in this website, which is one of my products that I do and it's more like a hackathon way that I did in 2 days. It's a website that you decide if you want a meeting or not. If you don't want a meeting, maybe it's an email. Nowadays, everyone works remotely, and maybe you'll get the benefit of working from home, but you're tired of meetings. Maybe an email is better. This one is connected to Firebase. It's also web progressive web app that you can install on your phone. And bear in mind, if you do a PWA, you don't have the benefits of the arrows. So your app needs to be able to move between all the different states. Bear in mind, thinking as a native app. In this case, what I did is use the title as my return. So every time that I go through in a specific area, I can hit the title and I can go back. So let's just create a super annoying meeting. I don't like those meetings. When it's gonna happen? It's gonna happen tomorrow. When it's gonna happen? It's gonna happen at 11. Let's just put 11 p.m. Who's gonna get a meeting at 11 p.m.? I don't know. This one would generate a public URL. So if it gets leaked, everyone will be able to vote. Maybe it's not what you want, so maybe you can keep it private. So if you keep it private, this will generate everything with Firebase, and you will have different options that you have available. In this case, what I created is if you copy this URL and let's go to vote, it's going to copy for me. I'm going to show you a little bit more how do I do all the deep linking pad things. Because it has a pin, I have to go through the pin. I'm going to copy the pin. I'm going to paste the pin. There you go. And I'm going to vote. I don't like a meeting at 11 p.m. So I'm going to vote that I want this. I want an email. I don't want a meeting. And I can go back. All right. But what happens if I want to check the results? I can open the results and see what's the current result right now. So the event is still going on. The current result is an email. In the case of a tie, they will show you that it's a tie. And if the meeting is over, no one will be able to vote, even if they try to access the URL. One cool thing that I use it with a share preference in this case is I copy the URL, I send it here, and look what it says. You already voted. What I'm getting is the computer will generate an ID for you. I store that in the share preference. You can store it also in Firebase as well, just to check if local, the client, and the server both voted. And you say you already voted, so you avoid duplicates and stuff that people try to get the result, this desired result. But you also have a lot of different stuff. Like for example, if I wanted to, let me copy this one, copy it. Let me copy this one. There you go. So I copy only the ID, and if I want to jump into the different sections of the URL, for example, if I want to go to join, I can go here, I can copy the code, and again, you already voted. And if you want to see the results, because you closed this one, but you still have the ID, you can go to results and you can paste this, and it's going to give you the results. That's what's going on at the moment. Other cool thing that I'm going to show you related to what are the latest from, let me see if I can do it, the latest from Flutter Web. In the latest master, I would say not the latest, but like a few weeks ago, Flutter Web detects if you're running on a Mac or if you're running on Windows or Linux are different. So what gives a difference in iOS the Mac and the Windows and Linux doesn't have is the flow of how you open and close UI. So on Android, if you're in a browser and if you want to go back, you have the back button, the capacitive back button, or you have the arrow on the navigator and you go back, right? On iOS, we don't have a back button. That's not what it has. So it has this. It has a swipe back. And the fact that it's detecting that my computer is running on a Mac and detecting that and give me an iOS experience, that's awesome. That it has all the same benefits, like I have the bounce list, all the same stuff. It's really cool that the fact that I don't have to specifically say, hey, please give me all these benefits from iOS if I'm in a Mac. That's awesome. This one, for example, is one that I that I have to use what's called audio element, and that it gives you the video element, that it gives you the access to have a video for you run. It's also video element is used if you want to use the camera on a web. That way is the one you use it for, and you got a stream where you get all the information from the camera. But it's also responsive as well. You see it's super responsive. This one really, I have to do a lot of nitty-gritties in terms of sizes, scales, and stuff in order to keep either removing items or scaling items, and then becomes a complete UI, which is awesome. It really looks really good on how it works. It works better build it, of course, than CodePen, but that's the thing. And also I can install it as a PWA, and I can open that one, and I can use it as if it was a native app, which is really awesome. That is not a thing that we have on DartPad and CodePen. We don't have that benefits because it's living inside a different website. That's the reason why it's never going to be working. Oh, thank you so much, Victor. I'm working on more clones that are going to be released soon. One is special, really special for the Flutter community. That's gonna be hopefully soon. Maybe I don't know if this hopefully this week. It will be awesome. I don't know. It depends on Google. It doesn't depend on me. But I'm going to create more example of huge apps, like the most famous apps, I would say, just to show that Flutter is capable of recreating the same experience. In this case, for example, I was managed to have the Netflix logo running on it. And one of the things that it has is, if you don't want to deal with all the controls, this is a JavaScript video. So I can show the controls, and I can have it a full screen if I want it. And already, if I don't want a volume, or if I want to skip, and that's it, it's going to load from that part, it's going to run. If I do want to add controls, I was a little bit lazy on this one, but I put just, if you tap on it, it gives you, that's it, pause. I don't really want to go through much on it. But that's it, I can close it, and there you go. The one that I really, really like it is the experience with the Netflix clone that I did. Because I don't only have the mobile, desktop, tablet. I also have like the kind of TV UI. So here's the first one, which is the most, like, this is the one that you got in desktop, right? This is the one that if you download the app and go to the browser, this is the experience that you have once you open something. So you're playing something, you just shuffle play it, and that's it. It's gonna run, and you can go, and you can increase the volume, you can decrease the volume, but it has this, which is really cool. If you hit the full screen, I got the same experience as if it was running on a TV. That's pretty much the TV UI, which is really awesome. And the fact that I can do it easily, I think I only have to use one command, which is something like window.document.enter full screen or something like that. I can show you now. It's awesome. And now I can show you how is the mobile UI, which the mobile UI, by the way, has so many differences, as you can tell. The way that I have like the music is in this way, and maybe you notice, but if you run it on mobile, you will see that some music has like a loop video kind of thing. I recreate the same effect with an animated GIF, but it has the same feeling. But you have like, you see how easy it is. If, for example, in this one, this is really awesome. The fact that I can just, if I don't do, but I do the opposite way, I can just give this, there you go, fade out effect. And if I'm running this one, for example, I can just hide it slightly. It's going away. There you go. It's gone away. And I got a sticky button on the top. And if I hit the sticky button, it's going to run the first music that is available. And this one, if I go through the desktop, it just removes everything. It goes back. The music keeps playing. Nothing changes. Everything running on the same code. And one thing to bear in mind, if you're wanting to do something on CodePen, sadly, we don't have more than just one file. So it's going to look like a spaghetti code. That's what we have. We don't have folders. So yes, this is a thing. Finding something in 2,700 lines of code is difficult. It's a struggle. Like, the struggle's real. But I would say that through limitations, you get ingenious, right? That's the whole idea that what I'm doing on CodePen. The fact that I can share easily, the fact that I can, if I'm so limited with Flutter in this way, imagine the release version, how fast, how amazing, how the changes it is from that one. And even I can call APIs from here. I don't have that limitation. Let me show you, for example, in this one, it takes literally user location, and it tells you what it is. So what it's gonna do is gonna call the part of these services. I'm running on 2 CodePens. One, it has the Google Maps. The other one is having Flutter itself. I using an iframe from the top, and it's gonna show currently in the position that I am right now, which is awesome. It's working perfectly, no issues at all. It's the same way that you call it on the website, getting requested user location. It's gonna prompt here if you want the location, camera, and stuff from the user. If you git allow, you will get that out of it, right? Let me see if I got more examples that I wanted to show you with API calls and stuff. Oh, this is really cool. So I don't know if I have an image though and stuff that I can show you. I think I do. Flutter. I think I have like a Flutter icon, something like that. This one I created a drag and drop, which on web is really super useful if you want to do stuff. The way that I did it, you can check later on my CodePen example, but it's super simple. I created what is called a div element, which will get it what is called a drop zone. So the drop zone takes 2 little details, which is, let me see if I can find what it is. Drop zone. Yeah, it gets an on drag in, on drag over, on drag live, and on load if the information is loaded. And the most important one is the on drop. This is when I drop something and I wanted to show it to the user. So let me try to see one. Okay, I got Gmail icon. So if I'm on top of it, you will see that. Let me show you that image, right? If I drop it, there you go. Boom. I can show you that image. And if I change it for a different one, let me open a different one. I got a different icon. It's gonna clean the other one, and there you go. It's gonna different another one. I came out with a weird solution of how to make it this more complex or weird, if you want to call it. I created a drag and drop of CodePens. So let me just copy this one. So you can also copy URLs, right? So if I go here and I copy this one, I just can copy the URL. I can go here, and it's gonna say, let me show you that CodePen. So if I drop it here, it's gonna load. Boom, it's showing my CodePen. And remember that I say that you have different UI views. So this one is using the same as the embed version of it, which maybe I don't like it. Maybe I want like a full UI experience. I can change to the different views. You have one is called live, which is pretty much like a website, but it's a little bit slower. It's not as fast. You have one that is called full screen, but you can still see that it's CodePen because it has all the top banner on the top of it. But you got one really specific, which is called debug, which is one of the fastest one that pretty much creates, it's a weird idea, but it creates a website for you. So if I copy this one, drag and drop into here, and there you go. It's gonna show me literally my phone. There you go. And if I scale and stuff, there you go. It's still scaling and it's working as expected, if you want to call it, with a weird UI name, but it's still working, which shows how capable even doing this weird thing on CodePen still works without any problems. So there's a lot of things that you can do currently on Flutter Web. You have some limitations. There's not a version 1.0. One of the things that everyone is hoping through a 1.0 version, hopefully soon, is the fact that you can actually use what is called the Canvas kit. I'm very scared by the quality. Thank you. The Canvas kit is the equivalent of this key enable on mobile. So if you're running on a mobile, you don't have to think about it. Skia is the render engine that you have. And this render engine is the one who's gonna give you all the benefits of running so fast, like 60 frames per second, all animations, everything is so fluid. Web doesn't have that thing yet. Still runs really smooth, runs really well, but it's not to the levels of Ski Enable, which It's going to use more your GPU than your CPU. We don't know when that's going to happen. Maybe it's going to happen in half a year. Maybe it's going to happen in a year. The fact that in just a matter of a year, Flutter Web has changes so much. It's so pleasant to work with a lot of stuff. Like all the PWS wasn't even a thing on my radar even a few months ago, and now all my apps are using PWAs for granted. I don't have to do anything. I just have to compile the app and I got a PWA. That's awesome. You don't have to think that much. It's like in other services, you have to create your Angular React app and you have to add your manifest and all the stuff, and you create all your service workers when all the necessary things and blah 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 blah. This will create it for you. So once you build your Flutter Web, you're good to go. There's nothing else that you need to do. Other stuff on desktop. Desktop is also going to be the next platform to really impact on Flutter. The fact that now it compiles for Mac OS, Windows, and Linux, it's awesome. They really pushing into working on all versions of Windows. For those who don't know, Xbox is running on a version of Windows, which that means yes, you technically be able to do Flutter apps for Xbox. So it'll be awesome to have like a companion apps for your games. So if you want to track some information, so maybe checking out APIs, or maybe even companies doing like companion apps for their own games, and you don't have it in your mobile device, you just hit the home in your controller, you switch to your companion app if you want to see stuff, and like having maybe well, for example, if they manage to have something for, I don't know, like I'm just going crazy here, for Switch. Imagine having a Switch, I don't know, Twitch or Spotify, whatever. It doesn't matter. The things that you can build with Flutter, if they manage to run and all those stuff, like why not? That would be awesome. And the fact that Xbox is one of those platforms, it's kind of unique. I don't think other platforms have the privilege to say yes, I can run on every single thing and Xbox. So that one is running also great. A lot of the libraries are also being ported to desktop. Let me show you. For those who don't know, there is a website called pop.dev. Pop.dev, if you're not a Flutter developer, you maybe never heard of it. This one is where you get all the libraries from using on mobile and using on web and stuff. So this one it says that it is native Dart, so it doesn't matter where you use it, it's gonna work. Every single pop that it has this badge that it says Flutter favorite. That means that the Flutter team and some really high level Flutter developers have approved this library to say, yes, this is Google quality of library. Use this because we approve that this is a good library. For example, Provider is one of those. This is really use it as a state management, and it's also have this badge of honor, if you want to call it. You can see here that it says, okay, who's the owner of it? It's Flutter. I think I have one. My packages. I got one. So I was able to be verified. You need a website to be verified as a publisher. My idea was to create like a 3D tilt example, which is awesome because you can click on the demo and you can try it right away. I'm using a GitHub as an example, and you can see it just hovering my mouse, and I can give this 3D illusion. And if I'm not on a computer, on a desktop, and I'm on mobile, you can just drag like I'm doing right now, click and drag, and you can have the same effect. The idea is like it doesn't matter where you use this. You have to grab your UI inside my hover car, and you can put anything you like on the middle. It doesn't matter. You can add the depth color. You can have tap on it. You can make a turn. You got shadows. You got a lot of stuff like the shadow colors. But it's my first experience publishing something on PubDev. It's really simple. Hopefully I can do a YouTube video of how to create your own libraries and publish it. The process is one of the simplest that I've seen. PubDev has a script that you can run in your terminal that if it's a library and if it's defined as a library in your PubSpec YAML, that's it. All you do is like drop it there. It's just gonna publish. Make sure that it's in the right account and it's gonna be published and ready. And every version that you use, like every version you drop on it, you get even a. I think I have the changelog. Yeah, you can add a changelog if you wanted, and that is gonna read from your project from your GitHub, right? So if I go to my GitHub, people just can, if there is any issues, they can just drop any issues, or I can check all the details from it. So yeah, it's real cool. The fact that we have something, and it's also quality one, because one of the issues that other platforms normally have is like the npm, for example. They have a lot of duplicated libraries, a lot of low quality libraries, or even libraries that never get updated. And Flutter updates so much, so often, that if they're not in the latest and greatest of Dart and Flutter, maybe it's not going to work. And that change happened, I remember, when the version 1.0 and the huge change that Dart has from the versions 2.3, 2.6, and 2.7, and 2.8. Bear that in mind, because if it's not being taken care, that library is not going to work. That's why we have like a this metric system of if it's healthy. If this is this value overall in maintenance health, it's slow, that means it's more likely not to work on your library. I will suggest go on top of 80 something. If it's only the popularity and the rest is 100, go for it, because that means that it's a new library, and it's not that the app is bad. It's not that. It's just people didn't know that library yet. So that's one thing to bear in mind into those libraries. Yeah, that's one thing. This one website, for example, that I'm using, compiled with Canvas Kit with Skia. This like run way faster than the other ones that I have. And I also have like this small things, like if I click here, I can go to a specific places. I would suggest not to use a scroll view ever for a website like this one. Use list view, or even better, if you want to really have that thing of like swiping that a lot of modern website has, use a page view. The page view has the benefit of putting a vertical one, so you can go through the pages and even use like this logic that I'm doing right here and go through the pages and see all the content you need, and that's it. And it's a better approach. The issue that it has with the scroll view is that it loads everything in memory, making your website super slow, unresponsive. Don't use it. More if you have like a full screen images and stuff. It's like don't do it. Use a list view, use a page view. Those recycle your information. So if it's outside the view of the user, it's not gonna load on memory. So bear that in mind. I don't think we have much on this side. I can show you part of the code, like what I'm saying, breakpoints. But to be honest, the biggest difference from any Flutter code related to web is so little. As one thing that you really need to know if you want to do stuff on mobile and web, and you really need to do changes, is first, if you really need to call web related stuff, don't use this library. Don't use Dart HTML, because it's not going to compile for mobile. I don't think that I'm showing right now, sorry. So don't use this library, don't use Dart HTML, because that only is going to compile for web. This is why I'm getting a warning that it says avoid using web only libraries. What you're going to do is you're going to go here, pub dev, and you're going to download a library that's called Universal HTML. Universal HTML. There we go. So you got this one. This one, what it does is, if it's web, it's going to use Dart HTML, and if it's a mobile, it's going to use the other packages, which is called Universal HTML. That way, you don't have any issues. It works, in all devices. So bear that in mind. Just don't go through straightforward into if you're going to add web-related stuff into your mobile apps. Let's go back to the code. How to know if my device is a browser? Simple. There's one thing called k-is web. There you go. K is web. So if k is web, that means that I'm running on the web. So I can have like a, I don't know, like website is, I'm just creating, I mean, it's not real code. And I have a third-party operator that says, okay, if it's web, run this widget. If not, run this other widget, which is awesome if you have like a, if it was like a mobile screen, for example. So if it's web, run the web. If it's mobile, run the mobile. Because maybe the website, we wanted to use it as a landing page for people to download the app, but I don't want to have two projects on one if it's the same thing. So I can, someone could be building the stateless or stateful widget for the website and running one code. And once you run it, if it's a website, it's gonna run one, and if it's a mobile, it's gonna run the other one. And I didn't have to if a statement. That's all I have to do for that one, and that's really awesome. I don't think many frameworks could have that benefit of quickly make the change from one to the other one. So it's one of the things. We can use the space if you want it as questions. If you have any questions, we can take a couple of minutes. If not, there'll be a lot of the code from here. It's already been shared on social media. So if you're following me or not following me on Twitter, on my personal Twitter account, it's called twitter.com/geekmc. So if you follow me on that one on Twitter, you can get a lot of the information that I get, and I share a lot of my on my GitHub. I share all my CodePens. All the code is open source for you to use to do whatever you want. I don't care. The idea is for you to learn how to do a lot of stuff. Like, it's not only on web. It's like there's a lot of specific UI related stuff that for some people think they're super weird to do and super difficult to do. And I try to go through the struggle first for people to see mostly that it's not really difficult actually. You just solved one of my problems. I was looking for a better library where yes, universal HTML. That's the one that you need. That fixes so many stuff. Trust me. It's been fully functional. I've been using it for one of my apps, and it works. Yeah, it works great. Other ones, like I say, because you don't have on CodePen libraries in DartPad provide, you don't have libraries. If you need a state management, you got the worst one, which is the stateful widget set state. The issue with set state, remember, is the build method is going to be rebuilt over and over and over. And if you have a painter on it, you used to use one class repaint boundaries to avoid redrawing every single stuff. I would recommend value notifier. Value notifier is awesome because it has a listener with a builder that you can have, and it's only going to rebuild the one listening through that notifier. This one is really good. That's for simple stuff. If you have like a counter, a different state, if you have like a true false value, or maybe you have a countdown and you only want to update that one in the background. You have like a fancy background, but you don't want to keep updating the background. That's one way to do it. You got the change notifier as well. That is also part of the library. You don't need anything from provider or anything. But yeah, if not, use provider. That's an awesome one. There is a lot of one. You got Mobex, you got Block, you got, you name it, Eric Star, so many. If you follow people on Twitter, you got Remy, and you got other amazing folks who make amazing libraries. Simon Lightfoot does a lot of amazing Gits on his GitHub account as well, and the study group that we have on as well. So that's awesome. I was going to ask about I'm behind you, Victor. I'm like but yeah, state management is always the thing. Yeah, try to avoid as much as possible set state. It's so simple. I know it's super simple, but it's not beneficial for your app if it keeps growing. It's really not. I would suggest like something like a provider or Again, even value notifier if you need small stuff. For example, in my case, inherited widget is a lot of boilerplate. I won't suggest that one nowadays, being the other one's so easy. Just for that, to avoid writing so much code. It's pointless. It's like Flutter has that benefit of being so easy, of being so fast, that having a lot of boilerplate, it breaks a little bit the magic of Flutter being so easy to do. So I remember doing the dark mode on inherited widget, and it was a lot of code. It wasn't that simple. And I did it with provider, and I only have to do 2 small classes, and that's it. The consumer who consumes all the information from the state management, and that's it. All I needed to do is get in a theme data and a true false value coming from a shared preference. All I need to do. I don't need anything else. That's why I decided to go through provider, because it really feels so easy to do. And one that I did is a super fast count app, like counting app. I did it with a value notifier and just go straight forward. Animations is maybe a thing that I will call and talk about maybe in the future. I know that a lot of people wants to know more about performance and state management. Maybe that will be a next goal. I will try to get the part 2. I will see the part 2 that is going to be maybe next week. I need to know the dates. It could be Monday, it could be Tuesday, and we are on Thursday, so imagine. But I need to see if I can get a Googler for Monday or Tuesday. That would be awesome. I would try to get one. If not, I will try to give about state notifier, state management and performance overall, to how to create a better apps. If I want to use a device storage, what would you recommend? I'm using SQ. I could recommend you that one. It's really good, depending on what you want to store, right? Because if you want to store like basic settings for the user, just go to share preference, which is the NS user default for iOS. It's called share preference for everyone. So you can save settings, you can save stuff. If you really want to store things locally, like a full list of stuff, use SQFlite, which performs really well. Now that FFI is being pretty much done, that gives the benefit of a lot of C and C++ libraries to be done on Flutter. So that means that libraries like Realm and other databases are going to be a thing on Flutter soon, hopefully, which is awesome. We will get more benefits or more different databases. And there's a lot of I need to remember, but there was different. Let me just go through the navigator as well. There's I need to see it was called Hive, I think it was. There you go, Hive. Yes. Let me see the latest version if it's up to date. I don't want to recommend it. It's I mean, it's been with a lot of versions. Sadly, I don't see any updates since February, but it still looks healthy. Yeah, it still looks healthy. This one is a non-SQL database that is super simple, super fast on Flutter, which is, it shows how good it is and how fast it is to read and write values. So it shows how share preference, SQLite, and others are taking. And Hive goes like super fast, like barely takes any information. It's using all the power of Dart through the Dart, so that's what is awesome about it. Let me see if I can have more like databases. I know there's another one that I can't remember. Sorry, I can't remember all the names right now. But if not, I will suggest you to go straight up to backend as a service. If you want to go to Firebase, if you want to go to your own MongoDB or similar. So cache some stuff on your app if you want it, but don't rely on that, because a lot of the apps nowadays really depends on get the latest things from the website, from your account, from the server. So use Firebase. If you don't have a lot of users, you're not gonna pay any, like not even a penny. and you're going to have like a real-time, super fast database that you can even cache Firebase, which is awesome. You get that for granted, right? Upgrade, yeah. Hive or share preference or another. Which one you consider best or faster? Depending what you are going to use. If you are going to use like I did for a dark mode, only down keep that value. Share preference. Don't get complicated with models. Don't get complicated with non-SQL logics. Just I'm saving key values, right? Like small key values, but I cannot query those key values. So if you really need to query, like doing logics of queries, don't use share preference. Don't use it at all, because all the logic of querying, you will have to, I don't know, store like a JSON to a string into the share preference, then get back to that JSON and then pass it as a list and then query. Don't do that. If you want to use Hive or you want to use SQFly, because you really need queries, because you really have different tables, you got different elements that you need to move around different places, go for that one. Because your life is going to be a lot easier, trust me, because you're going to store a lot more information, and maybe you need different informations depending where, and the share preference is not going to give you that. It's going to give you a response. It's a dictionary. That's a key value. That's it. That's all it does. So depending what you want to use, and what's fast, to be honest, phones has like 8 cores nowadays. 4 to 12 gigs of RAM is ridiculous. So, and all of them are fast nowadays. If you recall me like 10 years ago when we had like a 200 megahertz processor and I don't know 64 megabytes of memory, yes, I would suggest you going through the best way possible to optimize your code. If it's not necessary, don't over optimize your code in advance. Make sure it's like what is the best thing in that moment for your app. Is the best thing is save the setting, use your preference. If you're saving favorites that the user save it, use Hive, use SQFly, don't use share preference. Again, depends. That's all I can say. You got any other questions? If not, this video, we still have a few minutes if anyone really wants to make any questions. This will be saved into the SFXP account. So as soon as this one finishes, it will be available as soon as YouTube allows me to have it. I think I do have enabled the, yes, I do have enabled the DVR. So as soon as this session is over, you're going to be able to see it again and revisit anything that I show. And if not, you can go through my social media and you can ask me anything you wanted. I can respond all day. I don't have any issues. I really like to help people to get started with Flutter or get better with Flutter if they don't have some knowledge and stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks, and I really like it. So stay tuned for the part 2, which I still didn't define. Sorry. I would try to get a Googler. That would be awesome. If not, I would try to go through more like nitty gritty of having state management, performance and stuff. Thank you so much, Neil. You're always on every single meetup that I do. So thank you. You're awesome. I don't even know. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, follow me on social media. I posted it before. I will post it again if you're not following me on Twitter. I'm all day, pretty much. You can follow me there. You can ask me any question. If I don't know it, trust me, I will annoy anyone on Google to try to get me a response. I'm lucky enough and I'm privileged enough to have the contact for a lot of Google employees, and they told me that if I need something, if I need to help someone, I can give them just a message or a DM or a call, and they will help me with something. So use me as a medium for them, as a as a way to contact if you have any issues or problems with Flutter. The idea is like everyone feels great about using Flutter and you use it as an option to create your apps. It's like, if more in these times that we're living, if you have a startup or you're planning to start in a startup, investing so much money as a native app, if you want to be in other platforms, I don't think it's the smartest option right now. So Flutter, React Native as well, it has a lot of libraries. But right now we're talking about Flutter, and Flutter is an amazing option, and it will save you a lot of time. It will save you a lot of money. And again, and even if you're a larger company, you want to opt for Flutter, that doesn't mean you're going to have less. You say, oh, now I'm going to have less employees, or the employees fear that they're going to lose their job because they're switching technologies. No, the fact that they're switching to Flutter React Native, that means that they want more features to be delivered the faster, right? Because if I have 4 developers and I switch to Flutter and I have 2 developers, I'm still going to take a lot of time. Even 2 developers doing an app is a lot of time. So if I have 4 developers, I keep the same structure that I had before. I'm going to deliver more updates than before. I'm going to deliver more features than before. And eventually that will be convert into, hopefully, into more money for the company in the faster run, and knowing how startups really need that fast pace of delivering features to keep alive and to start getting revenue. It's a better idea to opt for Flutter, to opt for React Native and other technologies. And then you will decide. I know there's some specific stuff that you really need to do native, because it really touches the hardware of the device. And doing on Flutter maybe is adding just a slightly amount of delay, and that delay is unacceptable. Like if you're using like a music app, that the delay, just even 10 milliseconds of delay can be a deal breaker for your app. Don't use Flutter. Maybe it's not what you need. Maybe native is the way to go. For example, right now the iPad doesn't feel the pressure on Flutter when you draw something. So right now, do an iPad version on Swift. As soon as Flutter gets the benefit of detecting the Apple Pencil and the pressure on the canvas for drawing, awesome. More stuff on Flutter, right? But a lot of the stuff have been pushed by the community. So if you like the community, you really like the help, and you have the solution for something that maybe a lot of people will be grateful to have, create a PR, GitHub, Flutter, throw the PR. If it's passed and it's okay, you will feel good to yourself, and you're going to help a lot of people on having you part of the core of the framework, having a small mark from you, right? So yeah, well, it's also a little bit late here. I have another meetup as well. I finished one before this one. For those who are still awake and still want to continue seeing a lot of more Flutter stuff, in 24 minutes, the next Flutter Live event, it's going to happen. For those who don't know. So if let me try to get the URL. Okay, let me try to get the URL. So 1 second. All right, Flutter Day YouTube. So the session number 2, what it's called. I was part of the session part 1. The Flutter section part 2 should be app in 22 minutes. All right, let me drop you the URL for this. There we go. This is the URL. This is going to happen in a short time, so try to be there. I'm pretty sure they're gonna discuss a lot more stuff. I don't know the title, if you say something specific about that one. Let me try to get that one. Is session dev tools. Ooh, that's really good. So if you really want to focus on Flutter just released a lot of dev tools related to use of memory, performance, and all the stuff. Be on that one. That one's gonna be live. So I drop it the URL in the chat. Save it as a reminder. Again, it's in 20 minutes. It's about to start. I wanted to do this event as a cue for the next event. So yeah, pretty much it. I'm really thankful for everyone who's been here more than an hour. Hear me, a crazy guy, talking about Flutter on a Thursday. But hopefully we'll get more events. That'll be awesome. Showing more stuff, cool stuff like animations and maybe even a clone, doing a live clone of it. That'll be awesome. And again, if you have any suggestions, drop me a message on Twitter. I can respond to anything. If you really want a meetup event about a specific thing, it could be, again, state management, performance, on how to do stuff on desktop, on whatever you want. I can set that meetup for you and just enjoy it. But thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful night. And please sync, connect, enjoy to the next live event that's going to happen in 20 minutes. And I will see you next time. Be on social media so I put the part 2 of this event. And thank you so much. Until next one.